Animes or shows set in a more futuristic time period more or less has been good. Over the years, we've gotten classics like Akira, Ghost in the Shell, Psychopaths, and Ergo Proxy. What set these shows apart from the rest is their settings and the vibes the genre gives you. A lot of movies, shows, or games you've seen in the past, I'm certain most of you wouldn't remember the actual plot. But then again, the atmosphere of the show is something that is certain to never leave your memory. For some time now, the genre of animes like these has been on a constant line. We haven't gotten anything bad, but at the same time, we also haven't gotten nothing new. That's until December 10th, 2020. Do you remember this date? Probably not. This was a day a fire had started. A fire so vast and deep that burnt everyone's expectation.
Better equipped to put the punk back in Cyberpunk than Trigger.
Just binge-watched Cyberpunk Edgerunners twice in one day, and I can confirm that it deserves every ounce of hype it's been getting.
It rips the guts out of Cyberpunk and only takes the useful parts.
In the process, might have accidentally made one of the best things to come out all year.
This show goes so hard, just non-stop, full throttle, nuts to butts. It's done by Studio Trigger, and I think it is probably their best work so far.
A fire that grew so rapidly it found itself making record-breaking numbers. That very fire being Cyberpunk Edgerunners. When this show was out, you couldn't go anywhere without seeing it. It demanded a second season from many fans, and the show pushed the sale of the game past 20 million, even winning titles like Anime of the Year. The show was really good to say the least. From its story to characters to the overall vibe and aesthetics of the show, it was perfect. But before all of this, we had this. Now, this show, it was alright.
And in factory, I selected for a rendezvous.
We need to get our hands on a ride, huh? I'm not sure but to get their attention then! What the?
Akudama Drive is a series conceptualized by Kazutaka Kodaka, the same guy who made Danganronpa. It was written and produced by Norimitsu Kaiho and directed by Tomihasu Takaguchi. So you're probably asking yourself, what inspired them to make this? Well, I'm glad you asked. In an interview conducted by the Anime Corner, Kodaka was asked this very question: what inspired you to create this show? And his response could be summed up to him and Tominaga being bored one day in college, and Tominaga was like, hey, let's make an original work together. They started brainstorming the concept there and came up with the original plot. Eventually, as time progressed, they both agreed that it was good enough. Akudama Drive is a series you most likely skipped on watching at the time of its release. This is a show that was released in the fall of 2020, which marked series like Jujutsu Kaisen, Haiku, Tonikawa, The Day I Became God, and many, many more. This is an anime set in a dystopian that at first glance may seem like a bunch of edgy characters with a simple story. There's blood, chaos, a cool motorcycle, and the concept of that pretty much sums up the series. But at the same time, there's more behind its simple plot. Characters die, and the city they live in is a dark and gloomy place. Kansai and Kanto are the main cities in the show. A single war determined the state of both cities. Kanto is the one that won the war, and Kansai is where the story takes place. For what they say, Kanto is a thriving city where things are perfect and lively, whilst Kansai is a dependent city where criminals labeled Akudamas reside. Kansai is not an easy place anyone could just go and handle. It's like Gotham. You'll get beat up for littering. What the hell?
Wait.
You hear that?
Wait.
Sounds like justice for Gotham. This gotta be one of the worst Batman impressions. In this city, people hate Akudamas, and when executions happens, everyone is there to see it. The story starts off with this girl clocking out of work. Headed home on the way back, she decides to get dinner, and it's here when we're met with one of the other 7 main characters. Whilst the guy is paying for his food, he purposely drops a coin out of his pocket and abruptly leaves. The girl tries to give it back but fails, and when it's her turn to pay, the vendor only accepts cash payments. So instead of using the coin the man dropped that equals up to her total to pay for her meal, she decides to keep the coin and give it back to the guy later. This results in her getting arrested, sending her to the Kansai police station. As you progress further into the first episode, we're introduced to the other main characters. They all get a message on their phones stating that if they rescue the person being executed from prison, the winner gets 100 million yen as a reward. They all attack the station in hopes of being the first person to complete the task, and whilst they are beating the living hell out of everything, the girl from earlier happens to get dragged into the mix. Why, you may ask? Because she was chasing a black cat.
Watch out, kitty! A whole bunch of Akudama are attacking this place, which means it's super dangerous!
She's not too smart. They end up saving the guy thanks to the first guy's motorcycle, and it's here when we're introduced that the unknown person who is getting executed is the last character, making out the 7 of them. Cutthroat, he puts a bomb on all of their necks, including his own, and it's revealed that the cat was a ringleader, and tells them in order to be free from the necklace, they would have to break into the train and unravel the truth behind the Shinkansen. The plot is simple enough. A group of criminals is forced to work together, all for the same goal of removing the bomb around their necks, and throughout the story, they face various challenges. The story has a clear beginning, development, and end. There's never a moment when you are lost or confused on which direction the story is headed. It's very straightforward. If you were to look at the show from an overly critical lens, you most likely wouldn't enjoy it. There isn't any logic applied to this show. Bikes defy the laws of physics, Brawler catches a bullet with his teeth and spits it out the speed of light. It's ridiculous. Understanding what the show is trying to be, rather than focusing on a detail that doesn't make sense, I think is when you start to appreciate this show more. Kodaka has worked on a lot of things in the past, Danganronpa being one of them. He has the ability to create characters with unique and recognizable designs. His artistic prowess carries on towards the making of this show as well. Each and every one of the characters in this show has a very distinctive look that when you look at them, you instantly go,
Red! I want to see even more red! Let me see your red already!
oh, he's crazy. He's hyper. He's definitely the quiet type. They all have a distinctive feature, from Doctor's more slit eyes and colored hair, to Brawler's dreads and green jacket, to Cutthroat's almost ghostly appearance. There's a lot going on from an artistic standpoint. No one in this show is referred to an actual name. They all go by their label. Hacker, Courier, Brawler, Cutthroat, Hoodlum, you get the point. The main character is literally referred to ordinary person. This may seem like a flaw, but it fits the nature and theme of the story perfectly. Their faces are plastered all over billboards, and in the world they live in, real names are irrelevant. Once you become an Akudama, you no longer have human rights. The police will execute you without trial. Kansai's government isn't a democracy. It's a world owned by the top 1%. Anyone at a given time can be declared a criminal. Swindler by far has had the best character progression out of the rest of the cast. In the beginning of the show, I didn't really like her character, but as you progress further into the story, you realize her innocent personality radiates throughout the other characters. She absorbs all of the horrible and gruesome things that people around her do, and develops into an entirely new person, someone who people look at for strength. The main antagonist of this series is the Execution Division, consisting of mainly 2 characters. They, from time to time, appear and try to stop them from completing their heist. It's sort of like a cat and mouse situation. Every single time the 2 of them appear, you know a big fight is gonna happen. The action for this show is easily the driving force. They're all choreographed and animated in a way that with each fight, you're left in a state of awe. From hand-to-hand combat sequences to knife battles and using things like a motorcycle are all done in a very unique way, especially when it comes to this fight. The setting, time of day, and the weather sets the tone of this fight. Darkness overshadows the environment. Dirt and blood are lashed onto the character's skin, and for a moment, when needed, brings color back into existence. You can feel the atmosphere and the stakes of this fight, and this isn't only apparent when it comes to this fight alone. Akudama Drives combines the use of 2D art and CGI to give the series a unique style. Colors are vibrant and alive, but when needed, they know how to incorporate darker colors to set the mood and tone of the story. The show takes heavy inspiration from other classic series like Reservoir Dogs, Pulp Fiction, The Usual Suspect, Ghost in the Shell, and many, many more. A lot of these films had an influence in the decision making of some things, and you can see which things in the show has taken an inspiration from certain films. Courier's bike is a reference to Akida's red bike, and every single episode is named after a famous movie. Studio Parrot, the people behind animating this series, did an amazing job at creating and bringing out the life to their original story. If you're gonna watch this, I recommend not being influenced by bad reviews too much. This is one of those shows that can really settle deep within you, but could also mean totally nothing to another person. There's only one season, totaling up to 12 episodes. The pacing was alright, the ending is dependent on how you take it, and the show doesn't take itself seriously. This leads to a good fusion of serious and comedic moments. If you like the cyberpunk aesthetic of shows, while enjoying an over-the-top action, I would seriously recommend you watch this. And if that's still not enough to convince you, then it also won Anime of the Year for Anime You hear that song playing? Sounds like justice for Gotham.